I was going through Instagram, and recently I've been coming across certain videos where I'm like, oh, I'm really curious what other people think. And so I go into comment section, and sometimes I find these paragraphs that people write in response to a video, and usually it's more so about themselves and something that they're going through. And today I came across this comment. Well, it was like a heated discussion, but I came across the comment that said, well, in the end of the day, nobody's going to save you but you. And it was talking about childhood traumas and some toxic patterns. And that really made me, you know, I heard that before, so it wasn't something new, but at the same time, it just made me think about the profoundness of that. There's nobody's going to save you but you. And I feel like I never fully realized what that meant until recently. And this is such a relevant topic for this channel too, because I based my whole platform on those different self-discovery pathways, and I still stand by them. So they are yoga, therapy, so work, astrology, and psychedelics. And I still really stand by all of them. But throughout the years, and I think with psychedelics, I have already learned my lesson and realized how it's a tool, but you can't go to it and look for answers all the time. It won't heal you, basically. And at the end of the day, you still need to do the work. But I think with other forms, especially with other pathways, especially when it comes to thought work and therapy, it was a bit of a slow realization, I would say. Not that it's not helpful, and not that it won't, but like, yeah, really just that it won't save you. And what I mean by that, and I think this is what I'm seeing right now as I'm going through an end of relationship, and so of course there is a certain sense of loss and grieving, and I'm watching myself go through it, and I'm realizing how it's different to how I went through it a year ago or like a couple of years back. And it's different. At first I was thinking about how it's different to how, say, I would go through it like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, where I had different tools, so to speak, in my toolkit. And for me, those tools, something that would be so natural for me to go to, is, for instance, take out a cigarette. Something I don't even think about now, just because it's not a part of my day-to-day reality. So, yes, for sure, tools have changed. And once kind of meditation, psychedelics, astrology, thought work, therapy, all those things are all around me all the time. Meditation, they all a part of my day-to-day reality, so they're very accessible. So even in the deepest of my emotions, I still very easily can go into meditation. Not easily in the sense that I'm having an easy time sitting in meditation, but it's more like comes to mind straight away. It's very easy to reach for it. But it was so 2 years back as well. It was the same way a year ago, but it was very different way of going through it, because now I'm finally realizing I'm actually not relying on it in a way of it to save me, and I haven't realized how I used to do that. And so an example is, for instance, I would go and do things with an intention of them helping me, and it's not that I don't have the same intention now, but what is really important is once you go to that yoga class, to a float session, do 30 minutes meditation or whatever, even a whole retreat. The thing is, the truth of that phrase, nobody's going to save you but you, once you come out of it, you are still the one who needs to make a certain decision about your life. And that is the hardest part, and that is the part where I think we often overlook, because all those things that do create an opening, They allow you maybe to have a more clearer perception and awareness in mind. But even in the depths of that, because again, another instance, I remember having this strong feeling 2 years ago that I shouldn't move. Like I almost felt like it was an impulsive decision that I made. And I have received a lot of signs about it. And then I remember going to an ecstatic dance and doing meditation as well there. And once I came out from it, like I felt like my whole body was buzzing. I felt such a clear mind. And in that clearness of mind, as I was walking, it was that realization, yeah, don't do it. Stay at the same place. And it was so clear, so clear. But the thing is, it's still you who has to make that decision, because, and I didn't make the decision. What was stronger is the other part of myself. I want to say the ego part of myself, but I also don't want to demonize it, because I spend a lot of time struggling and like rejecting a part of myself. And I think what got me to a place where I'm now, which is not perfect place, and I'm not always making that decision, but it's much easier for me to hear that inner voice and to follow it, is actually through trust and with myself, and that constant conversation, a two-way conversation between the part of me that some may call ego. We also say it's my inner child that's acting out and doing certain impulsive decisions, self-sabotager, any kind of way you want to call it. But although I do prefer to look at it as like a hurt part of myself, like an inner child, or like a part of me that's in pain, because it's making these decisions based on, something it's lacking, something it hasn't received because it's hurting or doesn't want to feel something. So there's always a reason, and sometimes even figuring out the reason is not enough if you don't actually feel it, if you don't actually listen, because it's at a very like mental level. I can say, well, I know what was happening back then when I made that decision to move, but I really shouldn't have. I was really hurting, and I wasn't wanting to feel my feelings, and it was also grief, and it was also losing a person, and I was in a strong denial of it. But even then, I think, again, like I could have went to therapy and go through that analysis, but in that analysis, all I receive is an opening. It's an opening, it's an opportunity to go into those emotions, to feel them, and create that conversation, because it's almost like, it's not so much to feel them just to feel them, it's also to relate to your emotions in a certain way. It's almost like there are two people in a room, and one is very dismissive towards the other who's having an emotional experience, almost like turned away. Well, it's not enough for that person as a person to just be present there and sit with the other person having those emotions. At the end of the day, there has to be a conversation, there has to be empathy. That's the very important piece. So if you can empathetically relate to your emotions, and when I say the two-way conversation is also very much a conversation, because now I'm watching myself cry and go through all these very difficult emotions, and I wouldn't say that it's easier, but I think what makes it easier is that relationship with myself. And I know it sounds almost like vague and cliche when we talk about your relationship with yourself, and I feel like I couldn't figure out for the longest time what that actually means. But what that actually means is that it's really that conversation that you're having, because before, say, I used to cry, and it either would be the impulse decision that would come from it, because I want to save myself, like rescue myself. It's the inner relationship of codependency, actually. I would want to rescue myself, like anxiously react to my own emotions and act out in external words. So it's like they hurt me, the child me would kind of shut up and just like, here, I want to fix you. Or the other way would be is to completely avoid it and reject it. Um, but there was never that kind of conversation of, hey, I know this hurts, and I know it, like, your feelings are valid. That was, I really needed that validation from myself, because it would be either like that rational part or the very like anxiously reactive emotional part, and it was either or. And the rational part would be like, hey, you're making the right decision, this is good for you, you don't need that person, that thing in your life. And you have all those arguments. And why I say it's avoidant in a way, because it's a very like heady, it's very like head based, very mental. It's not in touch with the feelings. And so it's either or. And I never kind of, it was very difficult for me to bring it together in that way and be like, hey, I know you're hurting, I know you had all this good stuff, and it was wonderful, it's true, like I validated, but there were also this other stuff, and I think it would be best if we don't do anything about it. But you can cry, and allow you to cry, and you can be sad, and it's valid, and you can be angry, and you can, I don't know, miss that person, and you can insanely miss that person. Like, you can feel all the things, it's okay. But I'm not gonna make a different decision based on that. I'm just gonna really be there. And I mean, be there is also create space for it. I think that's a big part, because I was kind of treating therapy, meditation, other things. Like, I mean, meditation maybe it is creating more space for it, but I mean, like, space where you can be with yourself, like one on one, with your own emotions, and have a space to have that conversation internally. Because, yeah, like, those other things, they just creating an opening for that space, but it's really just, you know, like an example right now, I usually do my meditation in the morning, but it's very hard for me to create space for emotions afterwards because I'm working after. So it's just that realization, okay, maybe I should do my meditation in the evening as well, and like, not like schedule, but like, yeah, notes I don't have anything to do for the next hour or so, and if emotions come up, I can just be with them, and it's okay. And I found that being super powerful and super helpful, and it creates a certain like amount of trust between those two parts of myself, and I'm really feeling like I have my own back in a way that I haven't felt before. And I think this is what we really mean when we say nobody is going to save you but you, because like, you need to have that strong relationship with yourself to make certain decisions and to be with yourself. And I think making those certain decisions is hard because, like, yeah, in the end of the day, it's really like, it's not the amount of work that you do, but it's where that work gets you, and hopefully that is closer to yourself. And I don't want to say that, again, like I say, all these tools, they just create an opening, but I think work, a lot of it is also like reflecting on what made me stronger through this year. I think it's more so being with myself, because I did less therapy, I did less psychedelics, I did less of the things, but when I did them, they were very intentional, and there was a lot of intention with creating space and time for myself, to be with myself, but there was also a lot of intention in me pursuing my dreams, and I think that also gives you a certain sense of self-respect almost. And I think this is what I overlooked as well, because it's not just the things you do in the intention of healing, like those different tools, but it's also like things like even your career, or things like hobbies that you want to take on, and yeah, like seeing yourself progress in that is also creating a certain amount of trust and love and respect for yourself, which in the end of the day helps you to feel stronger in who you are and save yourself, or rather heal yourself, because you know, yeah, the whole complex of a savior is a little bit of a, I would say, victim mindset, but it's not that, you know, it's just actually stepping out of that and realizing that you don't need saving. It's just making a decision, one decision at a time, and you already have all the power that you need. Thank you for watching. I hope this was inspiring.